Hello and welcome to Kicking Tires. My name is Jimmy,
And I'm Justin.
and today we got some exciting news from Chevy, some Nissan news, some Mazda news, which Justin's not going to be a fan of, some Subaru news. I can't even speak. Some Subaru news as well. But first off, let's take a look at the most important update to the Silverado.
Yeah,
So
this is huge. Like,
it's so needed. Okay, first I have an image of the ZR2 pulled up. I'm going to talk about that later because that's a very important as well.
I think
But
that's our favorite.
it is, but the most important thing for the Silverado is the interior update. Let me tell you
Mhm.
about this interior. It is like such a drastic difference from what it used to be. Because like the current one, if you're on our YouTube channel, you can see exactly what it looks like. It's so bad. That screen in the middle
The
was tiny. It just
the
it
proportions are all off. It's just like had they come out with that interior 10 years prior, it would still have been considered ugly. And that's the thing is it was no better than the car it replaced. Like if you pull up like a 2015 Silverado interior, it's really like
it looks
it's
the
it
same.
looks the same. It doesn't look any worse, I would say. Uh,
No.
and so that's been a problem with Colorado and Silverado. And the weird thing is GM. It's not like they don't know how to make an interior. I don't know why in their most competitive segment they decided to, hey, let's just see what would happen if we put a terrible interior in this car.
It's
Because the half tons, like people shop around, and the numbers don't lie. GM, GMC, and Chevy were always kind of the number two pickup truck,
yeah.
right? And then Ram comes around, gives their car or gives their truck really fresh look, really fresh interior, and they take the number two.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it, you know it, it's really hard to pick the old interior over anything else on the market.
You
Even considered like a Titan or a Tundra, which have relatively more dated looking interiors, I would say, at least in 2019, 2020. Um, I would still take those over a Silverado.
yeah, you have to be a hardcore die-hard Chevy fan for you to buy the old one and be like, "Yep, this interior looks better than the competitors."
Yeah.
Like
Or this is sufficient. Like if I'm spending 60, 70 plus $1,000 on a
yeah.
pickup truck, like this is good enough for me. Like you gotta have some pretty low standards for yourself.
Definitely some low standards. So this new upgrade of this new interior it's absolutely phenomenal. It's beautiful. First off, the steering wheel is the exact same as before, so there's no changes there. So don't look don't look at that too much. But the biggest change is like everywhere else really, other than the steering wheel. All right, so you got a 12.3-inch digital cluster completely in line with what Ford is offering in the F-150. Ram doesn't have a full digital cluster. I don't recall they have one just yet. So this is going to be above them. Premium materials all the way across. And then a 13.4-inch infotainment system that is in landscape mode.
I like the landscape mode.
You like,
Everyone talks about the RAM, the,
yeah,
the
the
portrait mode.
portrait.
I think it's
Yeah.
a little bit too much screen. It was cool when it came out, but I'm over it. It is kind of okay for multitasking, I guess,
Yeah.
which is kind of the point of it. But it just it's so I don't know how you say it. Like it dominates that interior. Like
It really
it's a
does.
little bit too prominent. Yeah.
Well, what I like about this is you get a lot more dedicated climate controls. It's
Yeah, hard
underneath and it's
buttons.
hard buttons and it's separate. I like that. But what I'm not a big fan of is to the left of the steering wheel, we have some dials and buttons there. That's going to be your four-wheel drive selector and your light selector. And they're just right
They
beside
look
each other
identical too.
and they're identical. So that's going to be an area that you're going to reach for, not you're going to look at, which means that in a situation where you might need to change your 4-wheel drive modes. You're gonna duck left to see what it is, or you're going to have to like accidentally turn off your lights, in the middle of the wherever you are, because they are identical to the size and the button layout. That's what I noticed on it, and that's probably the biggest negative that I saw.
Hmm. Yeah, no, that's a pretty fair point. I think the Yukon and the Suburban are set up that way as well right now.
Mm-hmm.
People used to roast the rotary shifter on the Ram, but that one at least is in sight, and it's got a decent tactile feel to it.
Yeah,
I,
the
yeah,
shifter the rotary shifter honestly makes sense. You rotate it all the way to the right, it's drive. All the way to the left, it's park. One over is reverse.
yeah.
Like I'm completely okay with
So
the
with the all-wheel
shifter.
drive thing, it's not something that you would necessarily adjust on the fly. So I think it's kind of forgivable. Like this is something you would typically do at a stationary position. Um, changing your lights and stuff. Just leave it in auto. Like honestly, I Toyota and Honda have done the thing where you cannot turn off, like the off position is now auto, which I think is so
it's
great.
it's great. Yeah, it really
When you
is.
drive at night and you see all these like late model Lexus with their lights off, uh, it's like why do you think you're smarter than the car? Like you paid good money for this tech and it works. Toyota had auto sensors that worked for since like 1999 in a Camry. You could get auto sensors and they work well. And yeah, people just think they're smarter than this switch. So regarding those two dials, leave that one in auto, and then that one you don't touch till you're at a standstill. So generally speaking, I don't think it will be an issue in realistically.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and I was actually just kind of creeping on this photo here. This is the ZR2. And the reason why I kind of jumped ahead is I wanted to see where the lockable diff buttons were. If they were by
Oh no,
the switch, and they're not. I
yeah,
don't know where they
they're
are.
right in the middle on the
Oh, they're in the
very far
center.
right. So this is lifted kind of off the Colorado ZR2, which
Mhm.
has a row of those kind of flappy toggles as well. So the Colorado has that locker. It's not the G80 locker that people complain about with the Trail Boss.
Yeah.
So it's a
The,
physical button. You can just lock it that way. So good physical buttons, not too much gloss black in this interior. Well,
uh,
the
uh,
Trail Boss, I mean, not the Trail Boss, the ZR2 does.
can you look at
Yeah.
this big block of glossy black plastic just to the left of the
It's
vent?
pretty tame. By modern standards,
But why
I
is
don't
it
know why
there?
designer love gloss black,
It
but
doesn't need to be there. There's no need for that.
I
It
guess
doesn't.
as opposed to flat black, it is nicer.
It's a weird spot for it.
Could have had
Um,
more vent.
yeah, you could just put a bigger vent in there. Honestly,
Huh,
that
the
would have been
vent
better.
the vent toggles are Chevy logos, or am I
Yeah, it
just
looks.
seeing something?
I think it looks like they are. Let me see if I zoom in a little bit
What do
more
the
here.
GMC ones look like?
Just a big
No, that's not a Chevy logo.
it just happened to kind of look like the bow tie, but it's not.
Yeah, it doesn't have the slant.
It like this interior is really nice. The
Yeah.
infotainment is a good size. It looks like it's using a newer software as well, which is definitely welcome. The physical buttons that's underneath, you get a dedicated volume knob, so you still get that, but no media control buttons from what I can see. So all media controls is going to be through the infotainment. But your climate control, everything is going to be separate on the
Also
bottom.
on the steering wheel, they have buttons behind the steering wheel, if I remember correctly, or do
On the
they?
no, that's only
I
Stellantis.
think some GMs have that too.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't recall. But like I'm just looking because of where the shifter paddles are. It just doesn't look like there will be anything
Yeah,
behind it.
so the volume control is actually, I believe, on the back of the steering wheel. The the keypad on the right is to control the cluster.
Hmm.
right? Because there's nothing else that would control the cluster if
Right.
you look at.
Yep. Yep.
Yeah,
That makes
if I
sense.
remember correctly, GM is using behind the steering wheel buttons on their trucks. I don't know if they're passenger. No one buys their passenger cars anyways.
They have passenger
But,
cars still. But yeah, the toggles look good. The toggles that are kind of just right in the middle there between the climate control and the infotainment, those look like they're lifted right out of other Chevy products. But that's fine. There's nothing wrong with those. The climate control is a little weird. It looks like it's a full automated climate control, but unlike a lot of newer ones with the screen in the center, this just gives you kind of two digital readouts within the rotary knob itself for the temperature. So it doesn't give you or it doesn't display as much, but I think the rest of it shows within the infotainment.
yeah, no, it's solid. I've liked GM's infotainment for the last 4 or 5 years, to be honest. Oh, USB A and C.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
good.
I mean, yeah,
Yeah,
this
this is a good like truck interior too. Like it's got the a right like mix of kind of old school and new school.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's not fully digital age where every single button that you press on is just digital.
Haptic feedback. Well,
Yeah,
GM was the first to learn that lesson with Q.
well, they
Um,
still have that issue with a lot of their Cadillacs, I think.
hmm.
I think I can't. I could be wrong. I remember some Cadillacs and they have that touch sensitive stuff in it. I'm still not a fan. But let's let's move on from the interior here. Let's talk about the ZR2. What we're most interested about. So the ZR2 is Chevy's off-road kind of performance truck, and it's not a competitor to the Raptor or the TRX. This is more like Tremor or Rebel kind of lineup. So it's one up from base, but not crazy. So it comes only as a crew cab. You can get the standard or the short length bed. And it has a 6.2 liter V8 with 420 horsepower, 33-inch Wrangler Territory. Wait, nope. Where did I put that? Is it Territory? Yeah, Territory off-road mud terrains, and you get the Multimatic spool valve dampers as well. So overall, it's a pretty attractive package for
Yeah, this is
everything that
kind
you
of
need.
it's one step up from those kind of more light duty, more appearance based off road packages like the FX4s, the Tremors, um, front and rear locker. Like that's pretty crazy.
Mhm.
Uh, that not a lot of people really use it. Another thing I noticed, I was watching a review, that little T-shaped part of the bumper can also be removed for even more clearance up front, or if you're going off road, you don't want to bang it up. So
Like
apparently,
the in front of the wheel.
in front of the wheel, yeah, the whole
Okay,
T-shaped section, um, above that little fog light. It's got the red tow hooks, which is nice. GM smart with that one. They kind of jumped ahead with that red tow hook, and it's like that's our thing now. So if anyone else does it, it's like
it's copying.
it will look good on anything, but
Yeah.
then you're just copying GM at this point.
Well, I mean, who's doing copper? Someone's doing copper tow hooks. I can't remember.
Subaru.
Can't. No, they have like copper accents, but someone else is doing No, orange. Sorry, not copper. Nissan is doing orange. Yeah,
The
yeah,
new Frontier.
yeah. They're like,
That one
let's
is nice.
let's do all orange instead of red, so it's different.
Yeah, and it's cool. I think everyone's got their own thing, but
Yeah,
the red is like a very like universal kind of color.
absolutely.
Mud terrain tires on this one, so rather than all terrains, so pretty aggressive. That new the Wrangler Territory, everyone's running that now. That's kind of the tire to get.
It it definitely looks very aggressive. The front grille is just as massive as ever before, and you got that hollow bow tie now to let in a little bit more air. I
Mm.
think we first saw that on a Camaro ZL1, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it's like optional.
Yeah,
The flow tie on the 1LEs.
Yeah, like I'm sure it's not really that needed or no one really cares about it, but I mean it looks cool. And it looks like of course for the Chevy now you can get the multi-pro tailgate, which if you have a hitch on it, you will damage your tailgate, so that's
Mm.
always fun. But it looks like it's a very capable truck. I'm kind of curious. I'm a big fan of the Rebel. I loved the Rebel, but
Yeah, this is like a
this,
legitimate competitor now, and
yeah,
it's really refreshing to see GM kind of back at it because GM, they if they don't have trucks, what do they have? I mean, like they
Corvette.
yeah, I mean their performance cars are killing it, but those are low volume, right?
Yeah,
This is uh this is a really important car for them.
yeah, truck.
Obviously, so as far as the domestics go, they're pretty far ahead with electrification. Obviously, there's a Mach E, uh, Tesla also domestic, of course. But of the big three, uh, they're further ahead in terms of that. I feel like, um, and their performance cars have been knocking it out of the park for a while, but their trucks really have been falling back, and
Yeah,
that is so key to the American market. Yeah.
I can't wait for their next Colorado though. I'm gonna be honest. I think like
Yeah, because midsize has heated up so much,
huge. Like
and there's
with the
clearly a demand for it.
oh, absolutely. I mean, let's be honest. Most people still buy the Tacoma right now because it's the reliable one. But Jeep has heated up that market with the what you call it. I can't remember.
Gladiator.
That's what it's called. Yeah, with the Gladiator and
Yeah,
the
and the
Frontier.
Frontier is exciting too.
Yeah, and there's a new Ranger coming out. The Colorado really needs to be on point when that gets an update.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. Like looking at their momentum right now, uh, they're. I don't think they're gonna mess the Colorado up
I sure hope
going
not.
for. Yeah.
I sure hope not. But
Hmm.
yeah, that's about it. Oh, the exhaust tips. I know you wrote that down somewhere. Exhaust tips are
Yeah.
tucked up behind the bumper, so no visible tips. Just helping with that departure angle. 23.4. Oh, it's only about half an inch higher than the Trail Boss, which I found to
Mm.
be quite interesting. I thought it'll be quite a bit more like taller, but it's not half an inch more. So the benefit of that is like, you know, for underground parking,
Hmm.
you don't have to worry as much.
Yeah, because the trail boss is like that's about the limit of how high you can go reasonably. Once you go 35s or 37s, you're not going into any parking lots, which for a lot of these trucks being used in an urban environment, it just doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it has.
33s, well, and I like how the fenders are now circular openings as opposed to square. Like that was another flop on GM. Like the last 5, 6 years of GM pickup trucks have not been so smooth,
Hmm.
and this new Silverado is really exciting.
Yeah,
Mhm.
like yeah, I like the Trail Boss when I drove it.
Yeah, and they're
I,
good on gas. Like they're
the
very reasonable.
even the 6.2, I had that one. I drove from Vancouver to Coquitlam. I averaged under 10 liters per 100 kilometers, and I was just astonished. And this was like dead of winter with snow on the ground. Like
Yeah,
you're not gonna get
I
that.
will say truck people tend to not care.
Oh no, absolutely
Um,
not.
and and I guess the elephant in the room is also the new V8s from GM have also had some issues. Um, I forgot it's like valves bending really easily or something. Oh, it's because their cylinder deactivation
Hmm,
uh, is now so advanced. It used to be okay, your V8 is now V6 or it's a V4 or inline four or something, and they've kind of it kind of went crazy with how they can deactivate, and
right.
supposedly that's been causing issues. So a lot of people on social media posting their Yukons, their Tahoes, like with dead engines after less than 10,000 miles, or needing like major warranty work.
Oops.
So that's really important. Hopefully they can iron that out. all the domestics have had trouble with their diesels. That's including the mid-size Colorado, the Ram Eco Diesel, the Ford. They're all, if it's not a heavy duty diesel engine, they've all had issues with them
Yeah.
too. So it's another thing where it's like you could save a bit of fuel, but if that's going to cost you a new engine 4 years down the road, it's probably not going to be worth it. So just
Probably.
careful about kind of new engine technology. I think that's why the 5.7 from Ram is still pretty popular, because it has been, it's a pretty proven engine at this point.
Yeah.
And my brother is or was a Chrysler Ram Red Seal tech for many years, and he says that's a pretty good engine. Like he'll crap on those cars all the time, but that 5.7 is pretty solid. Same with Ford, right? Like the 5-liter V8 on paper doesn't make any sense, but it still sells and
Yeah.
it's still
It's
reliable.
it's old reliable. That's what you want in a
Yeah,
truck, right?
exactly. And oh, actually, I was looking at the mid-size numbers for sales in Canada, and
Mhm.
the Ranger is surprisingly doing very well.
Oh, really?
The Ranger is right up behind Tacoma, like less than 20% behind in sales.
Oh, wow.
So that just shows us just what the demand for a really good midsize is. So it
I
goes like Tacoma, Ranger slightly behind it, and then Colorado and Canyon way down, and the Gladiator kind of more specialized, so
where
even lower.
where's my
But
favorite midsize? The
the
Ridgeline.
Ridgeline is actually below the Gladiator, so it's so
the the best
yeah,
midsize truck is the last.
it's
That makes
last
sense.
place.
Yeah,
No,
that
the
makes.
Frontier is last place.
Oh, at least it beats something.
Yeah, but next year the Frontier won't be last place. Next year Ridgeline will be. Who
You know,
knows?
who knows? Who knows? I think Honda. The you know what? Say what you will. That Ridgeline is a good truck. I'm gonna leave it at that. Moving on to more Japanese vehicle news. Nissan unveiled a brand new GTR. And when they say brand new, is they took a look at the buckets of paint that they had left over back in 1999, and they're like, "Hey, we got some midnight purple and some millennium jade. Do you think we can throw this on the GTR and sell it as a more expensive vehicle?" And they're like, "Yes, that's exactly what we should do." Because for 2022, you can get the GTR in what's known as a T spec in Millennium
Hmm.
Jade, as well as the Midnight Purple. Midnight Purple looks like hot garbage. Doesn't look like
No,
this Midnight Purple looks like hot garbage because it doesn't look like the Midnight Purple it used to look. All right, there's too much green in this. There's way
this
too
one
much
is
green in this.
still nice.
I love their Midnight Opal that they did a few years back. That was nicer than this Midnight Purple. All right. Some of you are going to hate me for that. But the real Midnight Purple is Midnight Purple 2 in the R34. All right. That was the best Midnight Purple. This has too much green. It's no longer Midnight
This is
Purple.
this is a TVR paint code,
This is a TVR
which is
Celebra or whatever.
the best paint code.
Well, I mean, the TVR was the only reason was best because the paint was the only thing that was good on it.
Yeah, it's solid. I don't mind this half green, half purple color. It's what, emerald, I think.
There's no purple in it. From the press photos, there's
What?
there's so little purple. There's so much more green in it that you can't even say it's midnight
It's just
purple.
the angle. You gotta see it like at night.
Exactly. But
Yeah.
in the press photos, it doesn't look good. Millennium Jade, I honestly I've never been a big fan of it. I think it looks good. There's nothing wrong with it, but it's not special to me.
It doesn't match kind of the aesthetic of this car. Like it looks like a driving school like sedan kind of color.
Yeah, it just looks so ordinary. There's nothing crazy
Yeah,
about it.
so no surprise there. I mean, that's Nissan phoning it in as usual
Yeah, right.
because of budgetary constraints.
So
They didn't need to change anything about the car. They could have just kept it as is.
and still sold it.
Some guy some guy at Nissan is like waited a long time to announce this and to pull this genius marketing move off. And I don't think it's gonna do as well as he thought it might, but it hasn't received quite the response he
No,
thought it might.
I don't think it has. So the T spec, there's some bits and pieces from the track edition. So you get like the different spoilers, splitters, and stuff like that. You also get the carbon ceramic brakes from Nismo, so you get that as well. It is $26,745 more than the regular GTR. Is that worth it? Up to you, right? Like this is going to be a very, very rare color. I don't know if there's any that's actually going to come into Canada, US, yes, and of course in Japan as well. So if you're a fan, you're going to buy one, you're going to keep it in a garage because you're too afraid to, drive this on the road. Because a midnight purple, you're not going to color match this car ever.
Yeah, you gotta send it back to Japan if you
Yeah.
want it. One thing I notice a lot of car enthusiasts these days are like the one thing, especially with exotics or sports cars, everyone just talks about resale value. And Midnight Purple R34, like that
Oof.
is worth so much on
Millions.
auctions. And I think people are banking on that with this. Like it's a rare, it's a strange color, and that's what attracts people. And it will hold its value better than a silver or a black one 20 years down the road. If that really matters to you, then I guess that's who this is for. But I don't consider you a true car enthusiast if that's what your criteria is.
Yeah. It's more of a, you are doing this to bank off of it in the future.
Yeah,
That's really what it comes
when
down.
you treat your sports car as an investment, that goes against everything that the car is designed to do.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not an actual investment.
It's a
you know what?
terrible investment. If you have that kind of money, you should know better not to invest in cars.
Looking at the Midnight Purple on stage in a slightly darker, maybe lit environment,
Less photoshopped.
that looks actually pretty good. I don't see the green in here.
Yeah.
Better. This is definitely better. Still not as good as the R34 though. Better. I'll give you that.
Yeah, I think it's a good. I think the exterior photos are heavily photoshopped, and that's why, like the press photos were heavily photoshopped, and that's
Yeah.
why it came out with that effect, where like your curves, like the contrast is so dramatic.
Mm-hmm.
But in person, it's a lot more purple.
What do you think of this green interior though?
Not bad. It's very marine. like you go into what's that store called in Tawasin Mills? Big Gay Al's.
Oh, the fishing big bass, whatever.
Not Big Gay Al's.
So close. Bass Pro Shop or whatever it's called. I know what you're talking about. Looks like that.
Looks like one of the chairs they would put in.
It looks like a chair that's on the back of a boat, if anything.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely a little weird. Not a big fan of the green interior, but hey, that's just me. I like lighter color interiors. So there's this one that actually has this like lighter.
Ooh, it's like a ceramic kind of white gray.
Yeah, I mean that looks amazing in photos, but horrible in everyday use.
Nah, no one's dailying these.
Yeah, but the day that you are driving it, you have to be like, okay, don't wear my jeans. Like you have to keep that in mind.
Yeah.
But that's really it. GTR, new color. If you're interested, go buy one. $140,285 US. Something a lot more affordable and one of my favorites. And Justin hates this, but it's the 2022 Mazda CX-5. The CX-5 got a refresh. So 2021 in Canada, we got an update to have Apple CarPlay. 2021 and a half, We
I
lose
hate
Apple
this.
wireless CarPlay, and we got a wider screen infotainment. For 2022, Mazda decides that, hey, we should update the styling. So there's updated
Who
front and rear.
plans this stuff? Like, do they like talk to their dealers? Like,
At least,
how
at least,
confusing is that?
at least it's better than Tesla. Okay, like Tesla, they give you an update every 2 months, and then they're like, they don't even tell you about it. This, this is at least they tell you that there's a difference here. So the 2022 model, you get revised front and rear ends. Mainly it's the headlights, front bumper, and rear taillights. The rest basically looks the same. Depending on model, you can get body colored trim now, and it does look good, especially in the all white. It's quite elegant.
Uh,
Quite. I'm a fan of it. I'm a fan of it. Before you start telling me that you hate it, but if you hate it, you can get the GT trim, which is all blacked out. And it's not like
yes,
plastic blacked out; it's glossy black, which
yes.
is good and bad because it's going to get scratched up. It's going to look horrible, but it's good because it's different. Now tell me everything you hate about it.
No, the GT looks good. I think the full body color, it looks so awkward. It's like they're trying to make it look like a minivan. Like, I don't know why. Like, I don't want to see this car. I don't like this car. I don't think it's. I don't like what they've done overall with the bumper. Like, it's just so plain in that whole bottom left corner in that in that white color. It just looks like they forgot to style it.
So it in the photos, it actually doesn't help it, but there is a styling crease that goes down from the headlight. It's actually a very nice curve that goes down to the lower bumper, but it's very hard. Excuse me, it's very hard to see in the photos because of the lighting. But it's very similar in design to the current Mazda 3. That's what it is.
Hmm.
Like if you can pick up on the line, then you'd be like, oh, it's actually not too bad. You do lose all the fog lights though. There's no more fog lights on the bottom bumper like there was on the current CX-5. But let's be honest, fog
Yeah.
lights they don't do much anyways, other than just straight up appearance. It's a very clean look, but it's not the update that we're hoping for. But this new update for 2022 also makes me a little sad because I was hoping for a brand new 2023 CX-5 that's going to be slightly bigger, like actual brand new with new updates. I don't think that's going to be coming in 2025 anymore.
Yeah, and it's like every other crossover manufacturer does kind of little visual tricks to make the car look a little bit more bold, a little bit more rugged, a little bit taller. They've gone the opposite way with this, and it's just like Mazda just tries to be different like so hard. I don't know.
I don't mind it. I honestly don't. I like the way it looks. I think it
The
looks
GT is
good.
better. The GT is better. It needs that black
Yeah,
just so it's just not so plain.
you can see the
Uh
crease here.
yeah, like this one looks way better. I think this one does look a little bit better than the old one.
Mhm.
Um but still don't buy this car.
Or listen to me and buy the car. I okay, I'm very biased. All right. I love Mazdas. I love how they drive. I love what they stand for. I love the interior materials and a lot of that. But the CX-5 is a flawed vehicle as you can't get car seats in it comfortably. As a family SUV, that's one of its biggest flaws. Straight up, it is. If your kids are a little bit bigger and you're using forward facing seats, then it's not that big of a problem.
Hmm.
Rear facing seats, it's it's hard. It honestly is
Yeah.
hard.
Rear
That's the
facing seats and a stroller and all the other stuff that comes with that.
yeah,
It's I don't know who they designed it for,
yeah.
but
It's definitely difficult. I'm not gonna lie. Cool. Let's move on from that. Let's talk about the most interesting
most
vehicle.
controversial vehicle of the week. Uh, and it always is a controversial launch of a new WRX generation.
Dun dun dun.
You've
So,
probably seen it by now.
I mean, if you haven't, then you're not interested in
It
it.
wouldn't make sense that you're listening to us right now if you haven't seen this. Like, yeah,
So
right.
this is the 5th generation WRX. Subaru says it's brand new chassis, brand new everything. I'm telling you, it's not. It's just the current Impreza widened. But yes, it's a technically new engine for WRX, but not a new engine. It's the same 2.4 liter that you get in the Subaru Ascent. You get that in the Outback. If it fits in here, it fits in the Forester. All right, Subaru, put that in the Forester. Anyways, it's a 2.4 liter Boxer 4. It makes 271 horsepower, 258 pound-feet of torque. Obviously, it has all-wheel drive, and it's made it to a 6-speed manual, which is what everyone's been asking for. They're, it's an enthusiast car. You need a manual, and what they call a performance transmission, which is their fancy name of a CVT.
Not Lineartronic, not
Yeah.
whatever. It's now the
Um,
performance transmission.
yeah, Kia calls it the IVT, the intelligent variable transmission, but no,
I mean,
Subaru's like
it's funny because they talk about like the shift speeds, but shifting
yeah,
between what?
the the gear ratio of how it there's nothing like
The infinite gear ratios. Like, okay.
it's okay. So let's talk styling first. The most controversial part about the WRX is the styling, because unlike the current WRX, this has a bunch of black body cladding, and not just on like bits and pieces. It's around your wheels, and it's like trapezoidal look around the wheels. That's just another thing. You got a huge black front apron, and you also have a huge black rear bumper. It looks like a crossover.
Yeah, it does. It looks like a cross track. But okay, the car, the whole WRX name,
Was a rally car.
it's a rally car. So if a rally car looks like the car that we see here, you slap an orange livery and slap Dirtfish on the side, like
Perfect.
does it not look at home?
Yeah.
Like I don't know, all these tuners that have been buying WRXs to slam them and stretch 9.5, 10.5 inch wheels on them. You're doing it wrong. That's not what a WRX stands for.
The vaping crowd would be very upset with you right now.
Exactly. And so that's kind of why the WRX market has shifted and everyone just puts anime stickers on them, slams them to the ground. Uh, you know,
Rally
but
armor, mud flaps.
yeah, I don't know if we remember that that's what put the WRX on the map is not like a circuit car or
Yeah.
like a race car or it's a rally car
I
and it stands
remember
for World Rally Experimental. R is rally, not race.
I remember a little while back, I was reading Car and Driving magazine. One of the best things about the WRX that they love was the long travel suspension, because
Mm.
it's a rally car. It's a car designed for off-road. So like, yes, the body cladding looks like crossover, but I don't think it's out of place. I don't personally hate it. Like on a white one, yeah, it's a little bit much, maybe, but on a darker, like this dark blue that I'm currently looking at, it's really nice. I think it actually suits a car really,
Yeah,
really
and then
well.
they have the Dirtfish color.
The Durfish orange, yeah.
Yeah.
I the front end looks good. The updated rear end, it's reminiscent of the BRZ updates that we just got.
Yeah.
Um, I I'm okay with it. I actually don't mind the Impreza taillights. I actually really like the Impreza taillights.
Impreza tail. Those are the Honda red stapler taillights. When we roasted the Accord and the Civic for those lobsters,
Lobster
swing
claws, yeah.
line, swing line stapler. Uh, yeah, this has that.
I the like like I said, I don't mind the way it looks. The only thing for me that would make it perfect was underneath the Subaru badge on the rear end. It's this black piece that stretches the entire width of the trunk. If that was illuminated, for your brake light,
Mhm.
or not brake light, just your standard like nighttime driving light mode. I think that will just make the entire rear end perfect. That's what it needs. That's the only thing that's missing
Mhm.
in my books.
Yeah, the black strip doesn't really make that much sense to me. Like I'm neither here nor there on that black strip. Like it's a weird styling touch because it doesn't need to be there.
Yeah,
And it doesn't really add anything. It doesn't make the car like more aggressive or anything. It's one of those things where you see someone who has like a Corolla or a Civic, and then they go nuts with the 3M, and that's kind of what it looks like. It doesn't look that cohesive. Um, but I am interested to see if people are going to kind of embrace the rallycross side of this car, right? I think that's kind of what the WRX should stand for.
mhm.
Um,
There isn't
yeah,
enough rallycross events. That's
no,
another thing as well. Um,
you
I
can.
found one locally, and there's like it only happens twice a year, kind of thing. It's very minimal locally, anyways. I'm not sure, in other places in the world, but like here in Vancouver, there's only
Oregon. It's
yeah,
like you go to Portland and it's just
rallycross.
WRXs and Foresters everywhere, cross tracks.
Uh,
Um,
they did update the interior, so it follows like the legacy, the Outback kind of interior with the tablet style display. It's 11.6-inch display, Apple CarPlay, Android Auto, all that good stuff. But that's only on the top and higher trim. On lower end trims, they actually look quite different. I'll see if there's a
oh,
image of it.
are we getting that low end trim?
I don't know.
I feel like we can't get that in North America because
I saw it and I was like, wow, really? So essentially, what it is on lower end trims is you get two displays: one display on top for your infotainment, and one display on the bottom for your climate control and drive modes. And it just looks like two really horrible, like 7 or 8 inch screens that just are tacked on, rather than this larger portrait style display that you see here.
yeah,
But yeah, it
no one should buy the base
it, it
model.
looks really out of place. But
Someone compared it to the Nintendo DS
oh
that
yeah,
has
when you
like
fold it up, yeah.
not the
Or
fold up
oh,
version,
the
the really
2DS,
ugly one that
the
yeah, the
2DS.
2DS.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There is a new GT model. So the GT model is like the Grand Touring version. So with that, you get adaptive dampers, which is a new thing for WRX. 3 different drive modes. You get suede Recaro seats and 18-inch matte gray wheels with summer tires. So that's going to be an interesting package. And with any of them, you can get it with the performance transmission or the 6 speed. Um,
Yeah.
they actually put a lot of emphasis on that performance transmission of what it can do as well. So, as much as like, I mean, if I'm going to be buying a WRX, I obviously want a manual because that's going to be the more, enthusiast minded type transmission. But the CVT makes it
There's
just more accessible.
potential. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's always potential. I never write off a car because it's an automatic or if it's a CVT. I think everything everything exists for a reason and everything performs differently. You cannot just blanket statement, oh, all CVTs are garbage because you know what? A lot of manuals are garbage. No one mentions that. I've never heard any journalist say, "Oh, this manual is shit." Or, oh, do we have to beep that? Or the clutch feel is garbage or like you don't hear people really like criticizing manual transmissions and in reality there's a lot of pretty disappointing or just manuals that weren't meant to be in sports cars
So,
get put in sports cars.
so you probably didn't watch my Nissan Sentra video because no one really watched it. But I had recently drove a Nissan Sentra in the manual, and I said, "There's really no real reason why you would get this in a manual, because the throws were long, the clutch point, there's just you don't feel anything. Then the shifter was super rubbery.
Yeah.
There's
Oh,
no
it's so
reason.
connected. I need to feel connect. I need to know
It's
which gear I'm in at all times.
it's not a good manual transmission. It's just interesting that it's there,
The
but
thing is, Subaru's made some pretty bomb manual transmissions in the past. So I'll give them credit for that. So I'm yes, I'm in the same boat where if I were to get this car, I would probably only get the manual, but I would not mind a CVT one, and I
Okay.
wouldn't mind. Ever since the last generation, the WRX kind of had more appeal to me than the STI. Just getting like 30% better fuel economy, a lot better mid-range power.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, that's because of the engine. The FA is just so much newer than the EJ that it had before. The
yeah,
STI uses a engine block that's literally from like 1996 or something like that. I don't know.
2004.
It's been forever. Let's be honest. The EJ's been around forever.
Yeah, the EJ is it's just it's terrible on gas. It's unreliable. It's pretty rough, but actually it's objectively not a good engine, but it is kind of fun. Uh, and it does pull in a very unique way, and it makes the right kind of noises. So it's still,
You can
I
make the
get
right
it.
engine noises in an FA as well.
You you can, but it's just like smoothed out. It doesn't have that.
What's wrong with that? There's as anyone ever said, "Oh man, Justin, I need you to work on my car. It's too smooth. I need you to rough it up." Just I
People love the unequal headers on these boxer engines,
yeah,
and that's kind of that characteristic is kind of what people buy a Subaru for, is because nothing else sounds like it, right? Because if you're shopping Japanese cars, you're getting an inline four, and they all sound the same, and they all sound pretty
lawnmower.
meh. Yeah, pretty lawnmower, and like you can make it louder, quieter, less drony, what have you. But yeah, no, they're not like the sound matters.
Yeah,
Um, I'm curious what they'll do with the STI, if the STI is going to be like very track focused.
I'm
Um,
thinking. Okay, so with the WRX at 271 horsepower, the STI can't be at like 300, 320 kind of thing. I'm
it can't
thinking that
be because a Golf R is now
yeah.
there.
So I'm thinking STI is going to be like 400 horse.
If I don't know if Subaru has that kind of, not that they don't have the budget to make that kind of power reliably,
It's still going to
but
be an EJ.
whether or not they, no,
You don't think so?
I think we're at the end of the line of the EJs. Um, whether or not Subaru is going to invest that R&D into a low volume, kind of that engine's only in that car. It's not in anything else.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that I don't know, but they might just have a more built up version of this engine, because I'm looking at the engine base shot, and then like you look at the intake manifold, and this engine looks pretty pedestrian. It looks like they just lifted out of the Ascent. So
Yeah.
I could see them making like a hot version of this,
Wilderness
which
edition.
honestly, 350 horse, that's good enough for an STI in stock form, right?
Yeah.
And
Well,
they build it up with better internals and whatnot. Then
now
yeah,
now picture this. A wilderness edition. Okay.
WRX Wilderness Edition.
WRX Wilderness Edition, they take what the WRX is, they put the hatch up back on it. I mean, they still sell the hatch Impreza
Impreza
Wilderness,
Outback Crosstrek.
Outback Sport, Outback Sport WRX Edition. I don't know what you want to call it, but
Yeah,
Subaru, see, Subaru has the ability to do these things.
yeah,
It's
and it
not,
would be so cool to have a Crosstrek with a WRX engine.
yeah,
Yeah,
but they won't do it. Let's be honest. I mean, they will do it for their own market. In the Japanese market, there's the is it Laverg or
Lavorg.
Gorg, something like that. That has an STI version, and it's a full-on wagon, but we can't get it because we're not special here in
Yeah,
Canada or North America.
like what would even come close to a Crosstrek Turbo? Like that takes so many boxes. It's got a better interior space than CX-5, better power than a CX-5.
The
Better
shots,
resale value. Yeah, I'm just like
the shots, just
uh,
continuously
I just
shots.
I don't know. Like that would be a really compelling car for an enthusiast, and it's gonna have Subarus generally all drive pretty good.
Yeah.
Like like I know Mazda is kind of that's their thing is
Mhm.
driving dynamics, but Subaru in general has like even if you drive like an Impreza TS from like 2004, you're like this thing drives like way nicer than a Civic or a Corolla of its time,
Yeah.
right? And no one really gives credit to them for that, like because their head gasket issues and everything. But
Just a little bit of head gasket issue.
in general, Subarus drive very confidently.
Yeah.
Um, I think that might even be their tagline, or is that someone else?
Subaru, drive confidently. Sounds about there. Yeah.
I don't know who that is. But
Well,
I could see a Crosstrek being like pretty sick.
yeah, it definitely would be. Moving on to the last thing here. This past week I was in well, that wasn't it. That's the past week. It was a few weeks ago, but I posted the video for the MX-5 RF, which of course is the retractable fastback of the MX-5. For I was going to say 2001, but 2021. Also, once again, small updates for the MX-5. Wireless CarPlay,
Oh,
which in an MX-5 makes so much sense. Keep your
yeah, because
phone
you
in
have
your
nowhere
pocket.
to put your phone.
Exactly. Nowhere to put your phone safely with the cable dangling anywhere. So I have my phone in my pocket the entire time, still on CarPlay. Loved it. And with the GT model that you see here, you get this beautiful blue exterior, this dark blue, forgot what it's called. And you also get this white leather interior, also new. Not a spec that most people would get because, once again, white leather is horrible if you're going to wear jeans, and which a lot of people do wear. So it's it's a good spec. There's nothing wrong with it, but
It's got the wrong roof. I mean.
I, I don't mind the RF. Okay, I don't mind the RF. Like in so yes, I get the new MX-5s, like even the soft top, they're really good in the winter already, but this just it encloses you a little bit more. It's a little warmer. You don't get like as much exterior noise. I mean, it's only a little heavier. It's only a little slower. I don't think it looks bad neither. So like, I don't think the compromise is that much in terms of like RF.
Compromise. You're spending like how much more is an RF?
Don't worry about the cost.
Exactly.
If
So I am like considering trading up to an ND2 next year
ooh,
from the ND1. I should actually put an order in. The ND, but I don't like the RF. I don't like the look of it. I think it looks like like it clearly was not designed that way to begin with. Like they slapped that on
it's not.
after the fact.
Yeah.
And the Andy has the best soft top in any vehicle.
It does have a really good soft top. It's super easy to put down. You don't have to worry at all. Like,
You can
yeah,
one hand it and it's so fast and it works so well. It's the best soft top on any car. And
it's
yeah,
three
no, the
grand more.
RF it's 3 grand and it's dead weight. And it's weight where the worst the most undesirable spot to have weight is high up. And
I don't
that's
know.
where you
I got a pretty big head, and having weight high up is not a problem. Okay, I walk around fine.
and it's such a like it's such a bizarre kind of design because it's just a Targa. Like it's so overdone. Like just
It's
give me
not
a
like
Targa.
it's not the NC's retractable hardtop where it
Exactly.
literally is a full hardtop.
Yeah, because at least and see when you open it, okay, you have a real convertible. You open this, you have a Targa. You
Yeah.
don't you shoulder check and all you see is pillar.
Why do you
Like
need a shoulder check if you're going to be faster than everyone?
it's only got 180 horse. You're not
Yeah.
that fast. It's not. Yeah.
Pass them after a corner, then you'll be fine.
Yeah. It's a I don't know. I know some people that own this car, but I don't know. For me, you got the wrong car. Like this is the thing with the ND is it's shrunken down a lot compared to NC.
Yeah.
It's no longer that kind of do everything kind of car. Like I
Was an
know
MX-5 ever a do everything kind of car?
they kind of tried. I feel like
Like I
it was the people's sport because demands were different in the 90s, right? Like when like it's like how we're talking about the Corolla, how the Corolla kind of
right.
evolved over the years. It was a two-door coupe, became a four-door sedan, and now it's becoming a crossover. And so it's kind of how market demands have evolved. But in the 90s, if you were single or didn't have any kids, that was kind of enough. Like you didn't have to live in excess. We didn't all have to drive SUVs and trucks. Uh, it was kind of a big enough car. But nowadays the ND is kind of laughably small, even though it's got kind of practicality thrown in here and there. Um, Definitely comfortable enough to daily drive,
Oh yeah.
and fuel efficient enough.
Oh,
Obviously,
super efficient.
super efficient. Um, has a lot of amenities, but I don't think it's that like primary vehicle that it's kind of more of a weekend car. So in that for that reason, I don't know. I would only get the soft top.
Yeah. I gotta be honest. Even at the soft top, I'm looking at like the one that I would get is a GSP because you wouldn't want to get the GT. The GT with the more luxury type packages, it's not needed. I don't think it's needed. The GSP is where you're like where
Hmm.
the sweet spot's at, because you get the Bilsteins and you also get the LSD in the back as well. It's 40 grand for
I think it's worth it.
it's a lot of money for a very small car.
Yeah, and that's the thing is you're spending quite a bit of money, so it doesn't have to be that practical in my opinion. It's like it's kind of backwards when you think about it, but it's like a $300,000 Ferrari does not have to be practical, but a $20,000 Civic has to be practical. And
Yeah,
I think as you get smaller and more exotic and more unique, it's less and less important to have that kind of everyday drivability.
right.
And the dumbest thing I hear people say, okay, is oh, if you get a soft top, what if someone slashes your roof to break in? It's like you have your car has windows. You realize that, right? Like I can pick up a rock and smash your window in. You know, it
Yeah,
doesn't have bulletproof like quadruple paned windows. Like the roof is not my ideal way of entry, honestly. Like
yeah.
yeah,
There's a lot of metal in between that. Like if you really wanted to steal like a car convertible with a soft top, that's not the easiest way to get it. It really isn't.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I hear this argument when people like who've never driven or owned a soft top and oh, what do you do if someone comes at you with a knife? Like
Drive away. Like what's the hardest thing to do at that point?
oh man, it's just yeah,
Yeah,
I know.
I the the reason why I brought up the price is so the at least the RF, not so much a soft top. The RF, some people are comparing that to FRS BRZ because of
Mm,
course it's a coupe and this is a hard top which is kind of coupy.
two-door
And
sports car.
yeah, and at that price it's like FRS is or sorry, not FRS, GR86 is very enticing because it's quite a bit less money, more power, and quite a bit more practical.
Exactly. So only the convertible makes sense.
Yeah.
Again, you know, because you
or
can't replicate that in an 8.6. But
or if you live in California, buy a GR86, cut the roof off. You're not going to ever need it.
okay,
DIY convertible, better than
is
anything.
that
That's what I'm going to end with.
They look good. I remember seeing those conversions or like concepts,
Oh,
and they actually look good on the old FRS.
yeah.
Yeah.
It
You
it
know,
has it has the belt line for it.
I noticed one thing is that both you and I we still refer to it as an FRS, and I
I
think
mean,
it's like us dating ourselves because like an MX-5 is to us is still a Miata.
yeah.
It will
I
never not be a Miata.
actually in the US they call it Miata MX-5. But
Mm.
in Canada, it's just MX-5. They dropped the Miata
I
nameplate.
feel like the whole rest of the world is MX-5. No,
I
like
think
in the
so.
UK, it's been MX-5 since
Yeah,
the NB, I think, or even from day one.
I think from day
I
one,
think from day one. So that's why when you watch a UK review, they never mention Miata. It's
Miata.
always MX-5.
Yeah,
Yeah, and but this is always going to be an FRS to me.
to me, it's gonna be FRS.
Yeah,
Yeah, absolutely.
because
Uh,
yeah.
but yeah, I think get a GR86, chop the roof off. If you live in a sunny or environment, then it's gonna be the perfect convertible. Or
They could totally make one too. Like
honest,
how expensive is it to really engineer
they they made the concept before. That's the thing. GT86 open top, like
yeah.
they made it before. They kept the back seat too. I don't know how,
Yeah.
but
Well, no, it's it's a Lexus backseat. So it's an LC 500 or an ST 430.
90-degree seating angle. Yeah, that's about right.
Yeah, or even the RC, which does not have it's a huge car with a pretty
Tiny
useless
back
back
seat.
seat.
Yeah.
Well, LC is a pretty huge. I saw this post on Instagram about that new Netflix movie that features is her name Addison Ray? He's All That is the movie on Netflix. It's like some TikTok star, and she hops into the back of an LC 500 convertible and like all comfortable, and they're like, movies are fake when like like four people fit comfortably in that car. Like, no, yeah, but that's the car they had.
Super convertible. You
Super
should
convertible.
you should turn yours into a convertible.
They could.
Yeah, I mean the parts are there. Just head
I
over
mean,
to
they make
BMW.
one. Yeah, they make one. So
Should-
wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, to be honest. Well, I wonder how the wind buffeting. Mm,
It
with
can't
the
get any
top
worse.
down, with the top down, it will be better.
It
Yeah.
can't get any worse than it is right now if you open up your window. So I think it's fine. But I think that's really it for this week. Was there anything else that you want to add?
No, I think that we've covered just about everything.
Perfect.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in that case, thank you so much for watching this little podcast. We'll see you again next week for more auto news. Take care.
Bye bye for now.